buy them, but there might be other people out there and we don't want to look like we're tailoring it to somebody.
Yeah, I think you can go back, because they had been listed and they dropped over the years.
But the one caveat that comes with the active offer is the road taxes and to be absorbed, so we don't have to continue to abate those year after year after year. And that's been a problem. So we're going to be able to clear that whole mess up from now until as long as they own it.
So now I'm confused. I understand the 2 lots on Zachary. How does that impact the taxes on the road?
Well, the developer, the person who we talked with,
Yeah.
actually owned the road, and the town never accepted it because it wasn't done to standards. So there was property tax owed on it. They never developed a road association to divvy that up.
Right, I got all that, but say Joe Blow comes along and buys the 2 lots.
Right.
Does he also buy the road?
Right, he's assuming ownership of the road and taking care of the property taxes on it, on his own accord.
That's the person who is actively seeking it,
That's right.
but not necessarily somebody else who comes along.
That's right. Yeah, this was just part of the deal.
How do those 2 lots and the road intermix? Is it something that,
Road frontage. I mean, it's all owned by the same party.
so he'll own all the property there?
I think so, yeah.
All the property?
All, the 2
With
lots.
this one person who's interested in the 2 lots and the road
Taking
itself.
care of the road taxes.
The road itself.
Right.
From now going forward.
Right.
If somebody else comes along, then they only be interested in the two lots, but they might be willing to give a lot more money. So we don't want to do anything up front that would preclude somebody from coming along.
We can't do that, Bob, either.
Really?
And we gotta list it for a certain amount of time, so I mean,
So when we list it, are we going to take bids, or are we going to list it for?
so
$1,000
what
apiece.
we'll do is just like with everything, we'll list it for 2 weeks, not accept any offers on it. At the end of the 2-week period of time, we'll open it up for offers. Offers will come in, and we'll have a chance to discuss them as a group, and the council can either reject or accept.
Okay.
And
It will become obvious at that time.
it'll be on.
So in relation to the other 2 lots, the one down on, is it Middle Road? I'm kind of the opposite of Dana, I think. I don't see the point in keeping the Middle Road piece, but I can be talked into it. But the one up on Oak Street, I thought we were gonna look into using that for something, or having it adjacent to something.
Right, there's a proposed rail trail that's gonna go in, which is not right next to it, but the thought was that maybe we can utilize part of that parcel of land as a parking lot. But the way the land is set up, it's actually setting behind a couple of houses, and there's a narrow little right-of-way that goes up in there. So it wouldn't be something that you could see from the road, other than if you had a sign sitting there, and I don't know if it would really work. You know, and we don't know for sure if this rail trail is gonna go in. I mean, they talked about it, and I haven't heard anything about it for the last year.
So there's no harm in listing or attempting to get bids on that property on Oak Street. And if for some reason we decide we don't like it, or it's not enough, we won't. Okay, so now talk to me about the Middle Road. Why do we want to save that?
Well,
I
you want
guess.
me to give you my idea?
Well, or anybody.
We have a cemetery very close to that is getting pretty full. Someday there's gonna have to be room for me in there. And that land is
Squeeze you in
a
somewhere.
pretty sizable piece of land, but there's some more land that's nearer the cemetery that developers have worked on before. So maybe it's a tradable piece. I don't know. None of this has been looked into, Bob. I am just looking at the maps, and plus there was some talk maybe about a partner deal with a housing project or something like that for elderly housing or something, with some contractor or whatever in the future.
Okay.
But it is nice, fairly level land down there, and it's it's near houses, and it's, on a good road, and so there's a lot of possibilities, I think, for it. But I think it's land that a developer would want.
Gas line goes close by.
What's that?
Gas line goes close by.
Yeah,
So it would be a good developer
And
for
there is a-
apartments.
yeah.
I've actually had a developer come in and asked us when we're gonna list it because he's interested in buying it, and, you know, I didn't have the answers for him.
But there
There
is
is
some,
interest in the
there is
parcel.
some other open land that's nearer the cemetery than that is, and I don't know who owns it. I haven't looked into any of this stuff or anything, but there is some open land that's nearer.
Well, again, if I owned it, I'd list it and see what we get for bids. You might be surprised, somebody might really want it, and you'll take the cash and we'll put you somewhere else.
Okay, as long as you make arrangements.
Laid back, don't worry about it. And I guess this conversation is going back to the thought of, we're selling all the lots the same way, whatever we put on, but there's no 2-week period on a listing typically. You ask $25,000, and somebody comes along and offers you 22, and you decide, well, yeah, we'll take it. And that could be the second day.
Right.
So are
We
we
don't
doing,
accept any bids for 2 weeks, so that gives everybody the opportunity, or not everybody, but it
well, but
gives.
they're not bids. We don't have to
They're
sell them.
offers, they're offers.
So I guess I just want to make sure that when we get our market values of them, that if that property is something that may be desirable, that's going to go for a lot more an acre than the piece up on Oak Street. And the 2 lots there, they may say, well, you know, we're getting $20,000 for a lot, even though there's a road problem, somebody might offer us 18. We don't have to accept. If somebody said, I'll give you 10 for it, after 2 weeks, we may say, no, we don't want to sell it yet. We're going to,
We're gonna use the same process we've been using for the last 4.5 years. You know, I mean, this has been working for us, and I'll definitely get the market values, and I'll show you what the real estate brokers feel as though that these properties can list at, and we can move forward from there. But when we list it, the way we've been historically doing it is we list it and we don't accept any offers for a 2-week period of time. It lets it sit out there in the listings, the multiple listings. And then after the 2 weeks, I mean, people call out, and so the real estate broker shares with them that we're not accepting offers for a 2-week period. We'll gather those offers up after 2 weeks. Next council meeting, we'll discuss them in an executive session, and we'll make a decision. That's how we've been doing it, and it's been working fairly well for us.
is that what we did with the lake property and those other ones that we
No.
sold?
No, before my time, we've been doing it a different way. This is.
Just like a regular real estate listing, it gets listed, and when people make offers, we decide if it's a good enough offer, and we say yes, no, or, so it's an ongoing, it's like a typical real estate transaction.
Right, and this is a typical real estate transaction. We just let the listings float around out there for 2 weeks, so everybody gets a chance to look at them, and then we would accept afterwards. That's the only reason I'm doing it that way.
Mr. Cox?
What happens if you wound up selling those 2 lots without the road being part of it?
Well,
Who's responsible then for the road?
We'll be abating property taxes from the owner.
Forget about the future.
Keep
It
it
could be
going.
abated for the next 40 years.
Could be. And
That's
why,
what I was-
why do we abate the taxes?
Because we don't want to own it, because it hasn't been built to town specs. It's a muddy in the spring. You go up there right now and you're dragging on your,
So they don't have, the landowners don't have to pay the taxes on the road that abut the
and there's
land?
no road association. There's no agreement in place. The developer who had the property, you know, they just didn't build it, nobody accepted it, so
So what taxes actually are we abating?
the property taxes on the roadway itself.
How much acreage is it, does the
Yeah,
road?
do you remember what that number is?
I don't. There's 2 separate tax bills, because as they built the road, so there's the first section of the road, and then there's the second, and I don't know how much.
Who was paying the taxes on it when it was first done?
At one point, when they sold a piece of property up there to, I believe, a Mishu, at the time of closing, I don't know if it was because of the bank or whatever, but they made them pay those property taxes up, but that hasn't happened for quite some time. So we lien it, the 2 separate bills, we lien it, and then when it comes time that we're getting ready to foreclose, then we do a waiver, and we file that at the registry and waive it, and
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, yes.
So how many landowner, does each landowner who has property there have to pay taxes on a piece of that road?
No,
No.
no, not owned by them.
So who owns the road?
Control.
Who?
Control. Jacqueline Quick.
Is that the one who was
The
here?
lady was here.
So they own the whole road because they were the developers.
Yes.
So that's what makes one of these offers appealing, because we take that out of the equation. I mean, we don't have to do that every year for eternity. And, you know, and who knows, maybe somebody will step up to the plate and build the road to road standards. We'll accept the road, we'll be plowing it and maintaining it. But right now, that's not, you know, it's not fair to the taxpayers to have to spend all that money to rebuild that road.
How many other properties are on that road?
Gosh, there must be 10 to 15.
Let's say 10 to 12.
None of them get along.
Except that if somebody came along and bought the 2 lots and assumed the taxes on the road, there's nothing to say that next year they'll pay the taxes on the road. I mean, it's no different than it is now, they can stop. So we can't do anything to ensure that we will always collect taxes on the road. Right? It just,
Well, no, actually, I think the agreement is that he was going to, Charles was going to hand that land over to him. They're going to sign the property over to him, so he was going to assume ownership of it.
and then he,
Because that would take them out from underneath the tax burden. And so that was the way the whole deal was going to work.
well, I don't disagree, it would take them out from under the,
And he could do
he
the same thing.
would pay off their
Right.
taxes, but he could do the same thing next year.
I don't think
Because
that
he's
was-
got no reason to pay the taxes on that road,
Right,
really.
yeah.
Well, if they're tied to those lots, if the land was tied to those lots,
How would
Then he
you
would-
tie him to those lots?
you can't tie it to the lot.
I don't know how you do that.
No, it wasn't set up during the, when they.
Someday those people are gonna have to get a road, they're gonna have to have a cup of coffee, and make a road association and chip in dues and spend a lot of money on that road.
There's, Fairfield's putting in bids and stuff on a couple new solar things. Has been any interest on that Oak Street property for solar farm or anything? It's kind of out of sight from everybody. It would be a good spot for one.
Well, we did look into
But
that. The problem is the power. Yeah, there's no three-phase power out
it's
there.
gonna be closer right off.
Yeah, it was still quite cross-country run to get it out there.
Well, you know, up to the chapel and down Gagnon Road, it's gonna be closer than it is now.
Yeah. Although there's a parcel of land on Middle Road, it's a different story. They have got three-phase out there.
On both sides of it. Transmission line behind it and power line in front of it, but
I mean, if that's the direction that the council's thinking that they may want to go eventually on it, that would be the best parcel to use for that. And that's still a big chunk of land.
you know.
I mean, that would produce enough power to
But
offset.
there's some pretty good sized ones, looking at Fairfield now, and they're gonna do their landfill with one.
Yeah.
So you need a vote on this, which
I
one?
know there's no vote, I just needed some direction, and it sounds like I've got enough to get started with this. And, so I'll get the analysis on what this presented to council, and if everybody's satisfied, we'll move forward from that point.
I'll go to that. Moving on. Vote on the cable contract.
So, I presented this at the last council meeting. The only change that was made since the last one, we've eliminated the 5-year automatic renewal, so it's a 10-year contract. This is pretty much the same thing that we've been dealing with over the last 10 years. They're waiting for us to move on it. I personally don't think it's an issue. I don't know if you've had a chance to think about it, would like to discuss
So
it.
make a motion, we accept it.
So,
Second. All in favor? Okay, sign it or is that?
No, just,
Discuss allowing the back wall of transfer station of tipping building to be painted with a mural.
okay, this is something we've been actually talking about for the last 2 or 3 years in-house. We found somebody that's willing to do this for free, and they're a pretty good artist, and I think it would just kind of dress it up. And I think what the idea is that whole 3 or 4 foot cement wall on the side that you come in, They want to paint it a field with flowers all the way across. It just kind of goes in. Yeah, kind of like.
Go to the artist.
So I figured I'd bring you into the discussion so that you weren't shocked if we started painting. But any discussion on that? Any opposition to that, or how do you feel?
It's the concrete, not the metal above it that they want to paint.
Just the concrete.
Who's paying for the paint?
One of the churches up on the hill, they're doing this Revive Oakland process, and this is one of the areas that they kind of targeted. And we were actually thinking, Dylan was gonna talk with the school and see what they had for artists up there, and then Ashley Violet, who's in charge of their public relations, actually approached us over that same thing. So, yeah, I know, pretty rough shape.
Fall down today?
He says like this.
You do this, too much napping.
And so I says, "Boy, what do you got on your elbow?" I looked at it, are you kidding me? I guess that whole gonna change, but.
Sorry. Do you need a vote on it?
It's good to wear stuff like that in budget season. Town meeting.
Hey, time to talk
I
about it.
agree. No, I just, if you guys are okay with it, I'll just move forward with it.
I'm seeing hemp plants, I guess I'm all set.
There's a bunch of rain. But moving in, next thing, manager's report, you got anything else?
Yeah, I got one more add-on. As you know, we've had 6 positions open in town, and this has been a fair. We've actually filled 5 rooms, we got 1 left open. We've hired 2 full-timers, so that's all good stuff. And, but we've just noticed that just learned that we're losing one of our public works people, and they're going down in North Carolina. So we are gonna have another job opening for a public works employee. That's just an update on that, but we have filled our positions. And it's been a
Any further questions from anybody on the board?